and welcome to the latest episode of the Racing Podblast with me, Tony Mack, and Ben Aitken from Narrowing the Field. And it's good to be back with you. Happy New Year, everybody. After the weather claimed the Sandown card last weekend, this is our first Podblast of 2024. We're track hopping today with races from both Kempton and Warwick covered here on the pod. 2 races from Kempton and 1 from Warwick. And then we head off to our travels up to Scotland, closing the show out with our usual Football Trixie Battle, top, middle and bottom. But racing first, as always, welcome along, everyone. It's the Coral Handicap Chase from Kempton, due off at 1:30, being the first race under analysis today for us, Ben. And leading owner, can you start us off on that one, please?
Will do, Tony. Hello. Yep, the 1:30 Kempton Handicap Chase coupling here interests me. They are Phlegmatic and Latitude. Phlegmatic has run well all 3 starts so far this season. Only has prime conditions on one of those starts. Its prime conditions being Class 2 or less, October to February, good to soft or quicker ground, where he is 4 wins and 3 placed efforts from 10 starts. That's all 4 of his career wins. He started this season on a mark of 139. I think that was probably about his limit, I'd say. But he's been dropped a couple of pounds to 137. He also has the £3 claim of his jockey here. So he races off a bit more of an appealing sort of mark in this race. A return to Kempton, also a definite bonus because he's 2 wins and 2 places from 5 starts over the Kempton fences. I think this looks a really good spot for the 9-year-old to get back in the winner's enclosure, Phlegmatic. And then Latitude is the other one that catches my eye. It's still relatively unexposed over fences after 7 chase starts. I think he's got his conditions to suit in this race as well. In chases and hurdles on right-handed tracks and over trips of further than 2 mile 5, he is 3 wins and a half-length second from 4 starts. He's also won from 1 over the Kempton fences, so I think he'll be suited by conditions here, and I think he could potentially be a player in this Class 2 handicap. I like them both, but Phlegmatic has been running to a much better level recently than plenty of his opposition in this race. So he'd be my play in this, Phlegmatic for the Skeltons, or not. Harry's not riding this one, so for Dan Skelton and the Climber. What you got for us in this handicap tonight?
Yeah, I love Phlegmatic, mate. I think he's a good shout for this course and distance winner, as you say. Dan Skelton, Tristan Durrell in the saddle there, claiming £3, and I think he's well ahead of. I think he's well ahead of Chianti Classico, even though obviously he's behind in the official ratings. They tell you different, but much rather have Phlegmatic here over Chianti Classico. And we were having a quick chat before we came on air, before we started recording. Derasha Counter. I do like each way here. Now, I had Derasha Counter down for the Veterans Chase last week, which got abandoned, unfortunately. I think we made the right decision, mate, last week, because I think there was a Wincanton and Newcastle on last week. Absolutely awful.
Yeah, pure show.
And I was like sort of... I just didn't bother. I ended up watching Newcastle and Sunderland and something else during the day, and you went to see Elgin.
I went to see Elgin City V Stranraer rather than watch the racing. Says a lot of that, Tony.
Yeah, premierisation working well, isn't it? Sandown gets called off and we're left with absolute pants. But anyway, Derasha Counter is a 12-year-old. I think it's interesting that he's also... thank you for pointing it out as well, Ben, that he's also still entered in the relocated Veterans Chase on a little bit later. We'll come to it, but he's also his first decision will be preference rather for De Rasher County is this 130 at Kempton. So he's 3 from 18 over the larger obstacles. He won't mind more rain. He's won over 3 miles, and he's now racing £12 lower than last winning mark. And I think it's interesting that this is the preference rather than going for horses more of his own age in the veterans chase. So definitely each way, even though there's only 7 in the race, but De Rasher Counter each way to finish second to Phlegmatic, hopefully. And moving on to our next race, which is the 242, the good old Lanzarote handicap hurdle, Class 2 handicap, over 2 miles, 5 furlongs. Ben?
Yeah, the Lanzarote, some solid trends at play in this when you look at the last 10 renewals. All 10 winners passed the following 6 trends. All carried 11, 7 or less, at 8 or less handicap hurdle starts, or 1 or 2 previous hurdle wins, 0 or 1 previous handicap hurdle wins. All had won or placed in one of their last 2 starts, and all had previously won over at least 2 mile, 3 furlongs. Now, I'm going to stick those trends up on my blog, so if you want a recap of those trends, just head there, narrowingthefield.co.uk. A strict application of those trends, though, actually only leaves you with 1 qualifier this year, and that qualifier is Hermino from the Gary Moore yard. So he's clearly the first one on my shortlist. I'll also beef out that shortlist a bit with Good Luck Charm and Nemean Lion. Hermino, he was sent chasing at the start of last season, disappointed on his 2 starts over the larger obstacles, so he decided to abort that chasing plan. He ran a solid enough race back over Timber last time out at the Cheltenham December meeting. He finished 3rd over 3 miles. That's the first try it further than 2 mile 4, and he maybe didn't quite stay the trip all that well. He just seemed to flatten out a bit when push came to shove. So I think it looks a smart sort of idea to drop back in trip here. And he's very much unexposed in handicap hurdles, this being only his 3rd handicap hurdle start. His first handicap run came at Sandown last March, where he finished 2nd behind Howling Mad Murdoch, and that does look like a solid piece of form to me. It also suggests that his current mark of 129 looks very workable for him. So he's a very interesting player in this at decent prices as well. Hermino, he's freely available at 16:1 plus, so definitely on my radar. Hermino. Good Luck Charm is another who's reverted to hurdles after an unsuccessful chasing campaign. She failed to win or place in any of her 6 chase starts last season. She returned to hurdles this season, winning at Wincanton and a 3rd at Cheltenham in December. She has some solid form in her CV over hurdles in the October to February period, with 3 wins and 2 places from 5 starts. Those 3 wins coming on right-handed tracks as well. So I think she'll be well suited coming back to a right-handed track here in the Lanzarote. Good Luck Charm. And the Nemean Lion is the other on my short list. I think he's still got more coming handicap company. This is only his 7th hurdle start. It's only his 3rd handicap hurdle start, and you would likely finish closer in the Greatwood Hurdle last time out, had he not made a relatively bad mistake 2 out, and then another scrappy sort of jump to the last. I think all considered is probably a decent effort in 5th. Form has worked out well since. The runner-ups finished 2nd in a Grade 1 next time out. The 3rd, 4th and 6th from the Greatwood Hurdle have all won next time out. I think strong form on show, recent strong form from Nemean Lion. Gets to run off the same mark here, a mark I think he should still be up to winning from. I do like all 3 of those on my shortlist, Hermino, Good Luck Charm and Nemean Lion, and I will play Nemean Lion and Hermino each way. Plenty paying 5 and even 6 places if you can get on with them. So Nemean Lion and Hermino for me in the Lanzarote. Tony, what do you think?
Good stuff, yeah. Nemean Lion and Good Luck Charm I like, but I had a massive shortlist. I don't know about you, Ben, in this, but pretty close together on the trends, weren't they? But I've got three different ones as well. I apologise to the listeners, but that's the way me and Ben are. We sometimes agree, but I've got three different ones. I certainly agree with them, Nemean Line and Good Luck Charm. But I've got Mark of Gold here, first of all. A course and distance winner, 4 from 7 on Good to Soft, 6 from 15 when running between 16 and 30 days. Mark of Gold, which I do like. Gary Moore. Gary Moore's got quite a few in this, and he's got Niall Houlihan on board for this one as well. Secondly, from the Paul Nichols stable, Sonny Gino is the mount of Harry Cobden. He runs off 12 stone here. Might be a bit high in the weights, but he's won on Good to Soft. Good record in Class 2 contests worth 20 grand or more. He's won from 3 right-handed. He's also won last time out at Aintree last month, beating 9 rivals by 6 lengths as the 100 to 30 favourite. I think you can improve on that as well. That was off a £6 lower mark. Obviously, he's up in class. And finally, Moth Hill. I do like Moth Hill in this as well, who's a big price. Ridden by the greatest jockey in the world right now, Joe Anderson, after his exploits sort of hanging on round a horse's neck. I think it was on Monday, but he's winner of two of his last 4 starts, including a win at Sedgefield on Boxing Day. His last 2 starts over hurdles. There's a 3rd of 7 and also a 6 of 13 on his form lines, but they're on the flat. So if you look closely at his handicap hurdle exploits, he's finished second, 1 and 1 as well behind you. So I think Moth is a little bit overpriced here for trainer Neil Mulholland. There's around 16 to 1. 1 on Good to Soft. He's 2 from 5 on Good to Soft. He's won Class 2 contest at Chepstow in October 2022. I think he's an improving sort at 6. And he can go well in this, hopefully. Moth Hill together with Sonagino and Mark of Gold. But Moth Hill each way will be my big one there, my main bet there in the 242. Moving on to Warwick, we have 335 at Warwick, the Veterans Handicap Chase, which has been relocated from last week. Class 2 handicap over 3 miles, Ben.
Yeah, veterans chases, I would be honest, are not generally my thing, but
yeah, I agree.
I don't mind the final, to be honest with you. I don't mind having a play in it. Once again, attracted a relatively healthy field size, which is good. Decent pot to shoot for. I'm looking at a short list this year of Lord du Mesnil, Sam Brown, Mill Green, and Cyclop. Now, Lord du Mesnil, caught my eye when running a fine race in the Veterans Chase at the Cheltenham December meeting. I came over 2 mile 5, short of his best trip. But he ran a fine race though. The run should have tuned him up perfectly for this. And he will meet with his prime conditions here, which I have as trips of further than 2 mile 7, soft or heavy ground, a rating of 149 or less, and days since last run 56 or less. Under those conditions, he has form figures of 4 wins and 3 seconds, and they are all 4 of his career wins. So he has conditions that should see him run somewhere close to his best. And if he can reproduce a similar sort of figure to that which he's been posted on recent starts, then I'll be surprised if he isn't bang there fighting out the finish in this one. That's Lord du Mesnil. Sam Brown, he's one of those that's got more letters and numbers on his CV recently, but he's been competing in some valuable contests, and it's well worth remembering that he was 2 lengths clear at the Punchestown Festival 3 runs ago when falling 2 out. So bare form figures don't quite tell the full story. They also stick a visor on him for the first time, and he's wearing a first time blinkers on that Punchestown fall 3 runs back. So if the visor has the same sort of impact here as the blinkers did, then he could be bouncing along out front in the early stages of this. And if he can get loose at some point on ground he loves, he could prove a tricky one to peg back. And Warwick can be a good chase track for front runners that getting a fluid sort of rhythm on the front end. So Sam Brown, he is appearing on my radar as well quite strongly. And Mill Green, one of those strange sort of runners in these veterans races. in that he's actually still very much unexposed to the chaser, despite being a 12-year-old. This is only his 5th chase start. It's only his 3rd in a handicap chase. He returned the fences last time out in a qualifier for this at Warwick, where he finished a solid 2nd behind Thomas Darby, who also runs here. And Mill Green does get a decent swing of the weights with him. And I do think Mill Green was possibly ridden that day last time out with this final in mind. It was his first run for almost 200 days, and he's likely to come on plenty for that outing. He'll also have conditions to suit here. Look at him in chases or hurdles over shorter than 3 mile 1, away from very undulating tracks and off breaks of 26 days or more. You see that he is 4 wins and 4 placed efforts from 9 starts. So there are some solid pointers for Mill Green in this. And then the last on my shortlist, Cyclop, catches the eye because of the record of his trainer David Dennis in veterans chases over 3 miles plus, and in the December and March period. Under those conditions, David Dennis runners return figures of 9 wins and 1 place from 15 qualifiers, 60% win strike rate, almost 100 points profit. Cyclop, he was disappointing last time out at Chepstow. He pulled up after hitting one too many fences. Probably a bit too hot a race for him at the stage of his career. He'll be happier back in veterans chase company. Could be one of those that runs himself into place here from lofty sort of price, Cyclop. Of that shortlist, though, very much Lord de Mesnil that interests me the most. I'd hope that he could, at the very least, grab one of the places on offer. But he does have his prime conditions, so I'd be extremely hopeful of him fighting out for the win down the Warwick Straight. Probably also play Sam Brown as well. Hopefully the first-time visor will spark a bit of life into him. So Lord du Mesnil and Sam Brown for me. Tony, what have you got?
I've got Darasha Counter, which obviously I put up in the first race. See which way he turns up. So keep an eye on Darasha Counter. I'll be playing him each way if he turns up in this. I've got I Write for Harriet Graham, Gary Rutherford, Dylan Johnson claiming 7 off there. It's around 15-2. He's finished 3rd of 6 in the race you were mentioning earlier, Ben, from Mill Green. And I'm actually putting both of these up right now. Mill Green, as I write, as his 11-year-old now. Again, he finished 3rd of 6 behind Thomas Darby, and he's also finished 2nd of 9 behind Good Boy Bobby, who also runs in this on seasonal debut back in October. But Mill Green as well, Nicky Henderson, he is what he is. He's 12-year-old now. He's never drifted away from around the 138 to 142 mark, and he's pretty solid and consistent. He's finished 3rd of 23 at Cheltenham Festival in the Pertemps Network final. He finished 3rd of 22 in the handicap hurdle at the Aintree, the Grand National Festival as well. So he is what he is. He's pretty solid and consistent, and I think 11-1's a little bit too big for him. So I'll be playing Mill Green and I Write in the Veterans Chase Handicap hurdle chase off at 3 of 35. Right now, top, middle and bottom.
Oh golly, what a volley! The great thing about loving football is you cannot explain why you love it. It just happens. Chasing a ball round a park, wanting one team to win against the other.
El Mahoney, right foot, whips it. Oh, jeez, he peeps, man.
That was you last week at Elgin. Bit of the pop you've all been waiting for. Top, middle and bottom. But before this week's selections, Ben, an update on the current state of play, please.
Yeah, obviously no pod last week, so I'm not going to do 2 weeks worth of catching up. I'll just give the current totals, and they are me plus 3.24, Tony minus 23.59. Oh,
holy
he's a big one.
Moly.
He's a big one soon, Tony. But my top, middle and bottom this week is Dunfermline to beat Airdrie at 13-10. Dunfermline winless in 5, but they've all been tight matches. Bare form probably doesn't quite do them justice. Airdrie are actually unbeaten in 4. But again, I'm not sure those bare stats are quite all that they say they are, because 3 of those matches have been at home, where they're at their best. And the one away result came against Struggle in Queen's Park. So I am going to take Dunfermline to get back on track and land the home win here. Middle, Queen of the South and Alloa to draw at 12-5. And both teams been in decent form recently. Often just the odd goal between them when they meet. So I'm going to take them and cancel each other out. And this was a draw. I thought that looked a good bit of value around 12-5. And in the bottom, Spartans and Stenhousemuir to draw at 12-5. The 2 form teams in the league, Steny have won their last 10. Spartans have won 7 of their last 9. Both have been tight at the back in recent games as well. Spartans have the best defensive record in the last 5. Steny have the second best defensive record. Stats that kind of play out over the season as well. So I think it's going to be a tight one. I'm going to round out my top, middle and bottom with Spartans and Steny to draw. Giving me a top, middle and bottom of top, Dunfermline, middle, Queen of the South and Alloa to draw, bottom, the Spartans and Stenhousemuir to draw. Tony,
brilliant. Brilliant. Good to be back in it. Airdrie away at Dunfermline. I'm going against you, Ben. Airdrie away at Dunfermline. Airdrie, as you said, have won the last 3. 9-5 Airdrie away at Dunfermline. Queen of the South, again, going against you. You've gone for the draw. I've gone for Queen of the South at home to Alloa. And they're 11-10. And also, bottom one for me, Elgin away at Forfar. Stop sniggering at the back. Stop sniggering at the back, please.
I'm sitting at the front sniggering at you, Tony.
Elgin away at Forfar. Elgin are in good form. You were telling me how brilliant they were last week. So at 15-4.
Well, that's a blatant lie if ever I've heard one.
Elgin away at Forfar 15-4. Queen of the South at home to Alloa 11-10, and Airdrie away at Dunfermline at 9-5. All right, that's it. Blimey, doesn't it fly? Isn't it, Podblast? Isn't it? It's better than sitting there for 2.5 hours. Many thanks for listening to the latest edition of the Racing Podblast. Very best of luck with your betting at Kempton and Warwick this weekend. Remember, if you're nearly right, you can catch me on Shed Hot Radio weekdays between 6 and 9, and you can catch more from Ben over on narrowingthefield.co.uk. That is narrowingthefield.co.uk. Big thanks for listening again this week. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week. Cheers, Ben.
Cheers, Tony.
Thanks very much, mate, and good to have you back. And it's see you next week with the next instalment of the Racing Podblast.